Hello and welcome to Training Tuesday. My name's James, coming to you not from Southampton today, coming to you from actually our office out in Belgium this week, hence why you can't see me, because I'm afraid they don't have a video studio like we have in Southampton, so I'm afraid you'll have to put up with just a screen capture of my voice for today. But welcome to session 3 of our summer busking tips. The first session we talked about getting the most out of your playbacks, and then last week with Chip looked at the execute window, soft palettes, and using things like regions within the execute window. Today, we're going to talk about an important one, maybe not quite as fun as soft palettes and busking out the execute window. We're going to talk about some patching tips and tricks. So let's jump into that without further ado. So first off then, let's talk a bit about morphing. So morphing, hopefully something you guys are familiar with already. If things change, so okay, if I go along to my patch window and I grab my 12 spots here, you can see I've got 12 Show Pro Maverick MK1 spots in standard mode. The usual thing, okay, that was yesterday's venue, today's venue. If I go to choose head, Show Pro, and let's find a different Chauvet spot. Again, any other manufacturers are available, but I'm going to go this time for an MK3 spot. And I'm going to go for basic mode. Of course, it drops the selection back out when I choose a head, so I'm just going to go back to the spots here. And I'm going to select them, and I'm going to hit here morph head, and I'm going to hit yes, and it has now changed those heads over into MK3 spots. And of course, any programming I had will now work on those heads like so. So it all runs over. Of course, I could change them back again. I can choose head, pros, and I can go back to my MK1 spots, wherever they were. Let's go for force 1 spots. Why not? 32 channel mode. And let's go for these 12 here, and let's go and select, and I'm going to go morph head, yes, and it's now exchanged them back into those other heads. And again, the programming should just work for those like so. There you go. Another little trick that you may not have seen is, let's say, okay, I've now changed these into Maverick Force 1 spots in 32 channel mode, but I get to the venue and they say, look, actually, I got it wrong on my patch sheet. I didn't mean 32 channel mode. Actually, I meant a different mode. I meant whatever it might be. So what you've got now is, rather than having to remorph, you can just select, and there's a new soft button added in view heads, just called change mode. And I can say change to 25 channel mode, and it's done exactly that. My spots are here, and you can see it's changed them into 25 channel mode. And I can go change mode again, put them back in 32 channel mode. You can see it's changed them there. So rather than having to go through the hassle of choose head, pick a mode, morph, etc., you've got a quick shortcut for just changing modes now available to you directly in the patch window. Okay, so morphing, a way of changing over from one fixture type to another. Other things you've got that you can do, let's say if things in your show change, you have 12 spots at the moment, let's say it goes up to 14. Now I'm going to assume at the moment that you're not using group queues, but we'll come to that in a moment. So let's say I want to add 2 more heads. So you've got 2 options, either cloning or copying head programming. Cloning allows me to say take 2 heads here, and I could say clone them, yes, make a copy, and put them in the palettes and queues, done. And you can see it's made a copy. It's added 2 more at the bottom. I'm going to renumber those, starting at 113, just so I know where things are. And you can see in my viz, it's added those 2 heads on the end. Now, if I play back an effect, you can see those spots are in the effect, so I can arrange them better in my viz. And if I turn them on, they're in the queues. Now, what it's done is, because I selected the last 2 heads and said make a copy of those 2, it's done exactly that. It's made a copy of those 2 and put them there. So you can see in the viz, I now have an extra blue head and an extra yellow head. It put them next to each other on my truss. So it made a copy of 111 and made it 113, but put it directly next to it. And it made a copy of 112, which made 114, put it directly next, hence the sort of tighter spacing there. So it has literally copied that fixture and its programming. Now that gives me a bit of a problem, because if I come to effect, so if I come and zoom out on my viz here, and I run this queue here, which I made earlier, and I let that run along, let's say I stop it there, just to show you what's going on. You can't see it so well in the viz being fairly small, but if I go to my output window and I find these heads, where are they? Here they are, these spots here. You can then sort of see what's going on. So it took head 111 and it cloned it, which is 113. It took 112 and it cloned it to 114 there. And you can see it literally is copying. So if it's not particularly obvious here, if I was to be just running one head at a time, you'd see I'd be getting two heads come on at the same time, and particularly if I added those on the end, it's not particularly helpful. So our way around that, it could be using group queues. I'll come back to that in a moment. So that's one way of adding some extra heads. So I'll be using cloning there. But if I shift release and I delete these two extra heads, so delete that one and remove that one, just to show the other way you can do it is copy head programming. So this way you'd actually patch another head. So I'm going to go to choose head, show a pro, pick a force one spot in whatever mode I like, and I'm going to say patch one of them, one, enter. At that point, of course, there's no programming for it, so you can see it's just been dropped there in the top of the viz there. And if I run a queue for the existing spots, you can see it doesn't exist in it. What you can do is you can copy programming in the patch window. So as always, all the good stuff's on the shifting magic queue. So if I hold my shift key down here, you can see I get a copy head programming button, select it. It says copy head program cursor to select the head. So I'm going to say select head 112, select the destination, which I'm going to say is this one here. Copy the program to that head. Yes, done. And now wherever that head was used, its programming has been copied. So I run up the fader here, you can see there. But again, that's making a hard copy. It's saying whatever this head was doing, this one's now going to copy it in its queue. So it doesn't really help me in chases, but it just gets the programming across onto the queue there. So let's remove that. Of course, whenever we do it, when I've got playback active, so shift release, let's remove that head there and get rid of it. So it's not there now. So my way around, what can I do, particularly when I'm expanding with things like effects, is if I use group queues. So I'm going to say go to setup view settings, and I'm going to set in queue storage prefer group queues on, and this is one of the power of group queues. Let me just clear up a playback. So here's one I made earlier. Here is just a basic dimmer effect running across my heads. Okay, and I've called that spot chase no group queue. So group queues were off when I recorded that. It's just a dimmer effect. Now I've turned on group queues here. I'm going to go to my layout window here. I'm going to grab my spot group. I'm going to go add effect intensity. I'm going to drop on a dim chase, and I'm going to turn the width down like so. So I'll turn the width down. Now that I've done that, I'm going to store that as a queue here. And if I go and view the queue, view effects, you can see the queue has got one thing only, and that's group 4 in. It's not got, if I look at this one here, it's based on 12 heads because that was there at the time. So let's just call that call that spot chase with group queues. Spot chase group queues. And now let's run that same exercise again with either cloning or morphing. With either cloning or copy head programming, doesn't matter which one I do, but I'm going to take these two here and I'm going to clone those heads and select yes. And I'm going to say done. And now I'm going to run the first one. And again, when it gets to the end, I'm going to stop it. So I'm going to stop it there. And if I look in the output window, again, you'll see, as I saw before, I've cloned two heads. I should change the head number, shouldn't I, to 113 and 114. And if I look in the output window, you can see, again, it's taken a hard clone. So 111 is cloned to 113 and 112 is cloned to 114, doing exactly the same thing. Now, group queues, if I run this here and I stop, you can see that's no longer the case here. So I've got different values in for my queues here. Now, because this is a group queue, it's running on the order of things within my group. So if I go and select my group here, you can see along the top here, my groups are running 101, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. Because of the way I cloned, it's put 113 and 114, 113 after the pair that it cloned with. So all I might have to do is actually just reorder the group. So I now might just go 101 through 114, record there. Yes, it's got 14 in order. And if I run the effect, in fact, I don't even have to replay the effect. It would already have worked it out for me. But if I go and find those in my output window, you can see it's no longer cloning across and saying that one copies that one. It's taking the actual head numbers and running it so the head nicely spreads across all 14. So that gets around my problem of when I want to add or indeed remove as well, that the effect will scale based on the contents and the order of things within the group. So hence one of our tips of using group queues is a good way of working around that. So anyway, what other patching tips and tricks have I got for you? Well, here's one I made earlier as well. I patched in earlier some LED battens along the top here. So I patched them some Colorado Solo battens. They're in 12 cell mode. So if I go and grab my battens here and locate them, you can see, yeah, they're working, lovely. But I made a bit of an error. When I recorded though, or when I didn't make an error actually, I patched them in perfectly. My technicians made an error, and this center batten here, they put in the wrong way round. They just happen to have it 180 degrees inverted. So when I run an effect on it, like so, you can see here this red and blue effect. It gets to the middle batten, and it's running backwards. Well, of course, the right thing to do would be to go and tell my techs to go and flip that batten over and put it the right way round. But I didn't notice that, and I'm literally into the first track of the my set now. I haven't got time. I can't send anyone on stage. I just need to quickly fix that. So what I can do at patch level is you can come in here, and there's a swap column here. If you haven't seen this swap column before, essentially it's an invert. So it allows me to take particularly things like a linear batten and swap and invert them. You can see now I've done that, and my effect is now playing back in the correct order. So if I take that, flip it, you can see the effect now runs in the right order. It literally, at patch level, 180s that fixture for me, so it sorts out that invert problem for me. So there you go, there's a little patching trick for you. Of course, if it's a moving light, you have your usual pan and tilt inverts you can use as well. I'll come to pan and tilt offsets in a moment, but I want to talk a little bit about some just addressing little things for us. So when I come to address fixtures, let's say I've got my spots here, and you can see I've got an offset of 32 channels between them. So I've got 1, 33, 65, etc. But let's say I've got them in universe 2, or most of them have. I haven't got these. This last one in universe 9 just probably for spacing. But let's say I want to move these to a different universe. In fact, I should be able to fit this here, shouldn't I? It looks like I should have room. Maybe there's some other stuff in universe 2. Let's just say, let's put that at 2 for 70, and let's see what happens. There you go, cool. So I've got them now on the same universe. Now I've obviously got a different offset number. The rest of these are 32 between them, and I've got a higher number between this head here and the last one. But let's say I want to move all of these to a different universe while keeping the same offset. So I want to just talk about some of the usual shortcuts. So of course, when you've got a patched head, you can put your cursor in the box and you could say 3 - 1, enter, and you can move that head. Or it's 2 - 1 and move it back. Of course, it's patched already. You don't need to do the 1 at bit because it's already patched. But there are some little shortcuts for you to be able to sort of do things like keep the offset. So if I wanted to say grab these, and I want to say actually I want to put these on universe 15, but I want to keep the offset. So I could say 15 - 1. Now, of course, if I hit that, it's going to reset the offset back. So it's going to, I'd lose this end offset here. In fact, if I do that, if I said 15 - 1, enter, you can see it recalculated this one to be 417 because that's its offset. Number of channels 32, 385 plus 32 becomes 417. But let's say I don't want that. Okay, maybe actually I want this one to be at 15 - 450. I don't want a different offset. But I want to be able to move all these and keep the offset. So what I could do is I could say actually 16 - 1. If I want to keep an offset, just put a forward slash. So 16 - 1 forward slash enter will now keep the offset. So essentially it keeps all the addresses, but just allows me to move the universe. So I can now say 20 - 1 slash enter, keep the offset. Keep the offset as it is. Now there are some other little shortcuts for actually when I'm trying to just patch fixtures. If I go to my all view here and I sort by DMX address, great, okay, but maybe I'm trying to fit something in a universe. Usual thing, I've got a smoke machine or a haze machine. I want to drop in and try and get in an empty gap on a universe somewhere. Well, let's go and pick it. Okay, I'm just going to pick any old head just for now. Let's say I've got, okay, let's go for a Cloud 9. There you go. So I've got an atmospheric 2-channel thing. I'm looking for a gap. Where do I want to put that thing? Well, I can go patch it, and I can enter, and I could say, okay, I want to patch one of them at, let's do the at symbol, there it is, and if I want to say just the next free channel on a universe, I could say, instead of just typing, let's say I want to put it on universe 1, instead of just going 1 - 1, that would be try and put it on universe 1, channel 1, before the first one, I'm going to put plus there, 1 at +1 - 1, would basically mean patch it on the next free channel on that universe. So I'm going to say enter, and it's gone ahead and patched in. It's found that the next free channel on that universe was channel 497. I can verify that. If I go to view channels and universe there, look at universe 1, you can see it literally was. Red shows me the gap there. The next free channel was indeed 497, but I didn't even have to go and look at that. I can just go, okay, well, patch another one at +2 -1. Find that on the next free channel will happen to be universe 2 channel 1, because obviously I just moved all those spots up to universe 15. You can also use a similar thing to actually say start from an address. So actually I could say here, patch it, I could say 1 at, I could say +2 -50, and it says, okay, look at universe 2, start from channel 50 and patch it in a gap after that, which happened to be 50 on this one, but maybe there wasn't. It would just use the next free gap. So it will go around things you've got already patched. There are a whole bunch of different syntaxes you can type in as you're patching there as well. Okay, final one to mention then is pan and tilt inverts. Let me shift release here. Sorry, pan and tilt offsets. Let me get rid of these Cloud9s because they're stuck in the viz and that's just annoying me at the moment. There you go. Let's get rid of those. So pan and tilt offsets. So pan and tilt offsets are very much an underutilized tool in my opinion. Let's say clear up a couple of playbacks here. Pan and tilt offsets are a great tool when you're particularly when you're sort of doing things like cloning and morphing, or actually not cloning morphing, when you're moving from venue to venue and the trim height of a truss changes, or the particularly trim height of trusses changes. It saves you time in having to actually go through and update hundreds of different positions. So the idea of pan and tilt offsets is if I grab my spots here and locate them, is you have yourself, say, a center focus position. So if I go and use my plot window, you would obviously do this in real life using fixtures on your stage, and I'm going to say all of my spots focus into the center here. I'm going to store that as a palette, and I'm going to call that my center palette. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to record that as a cue there. Okay, so the idea being that if something changes, so let's say that trim height of a fixture, so I'm going to go to view viz here. Obviously, it's not a true representation because I'm only doing things in the viz and not in real life. But if I go and take my viz heads and I took my spots wherever they are, somewhere in my spots, there you go, and I take one of them and I change its height like so, and I move it slightly as well. You can see it's slightly out now. The idea of a pan and tilt offset is I would then take my spots and I'd go back to my stage. Obviously, I wouldn't do this in the plot. I'd do it on my stage, and I'd say refocus all the spots into the center. And you can see, obviously, it's recentered down there. Now, of course, I was slightly off, and it moved all the fixtures there. So we'd expect that you obviously have a center marker or wherever it is on the stage there. So I've updated that here. Now I've got my center queue running here. So I store that as a queue. The queue's active, but I just in the programmer have updated the position for those. I press my update button and I have an option now for offset patch. And what this looks at is where were the fixtures before, where are they now, and it calculates what the offset is. So I can hit done offset patch. And if I look in my patch window, you'll notice for the spots hopefully now, where I sorted by DMX, didn't I? You can see that it's added an offset. It's added a 20-degree pan offset and a 7-degree tilt offset to this head here to make sure that it now sits in that new position in the center. So if I run the queue, it's now sitting in the center there. Now that hasn't changed the palette value. It hasn't changed the value in the queue. It's done that at patch level. So it means that any position palettes would have that same offset applied to them. So if I locate it and I pick, say, my fan out, of course, obviously I've moved this in extreme position, not without the others, and the cross, etc. It's moved it to get to the same position on the stage that it needed to be able to do that. So there you go. That's pan and tilt offsets for you. So hopefully that's been a few little useful tips and tricks in the patch window for you when running, particularly running changes on the fly, moving from venue to venue or show to show. We've got our final training Tuesday next week where we kind of sum up our summer busking tips. We'd love to hear some of your tips and tricks as well, and we'll call them out in next week's session as well. So if you are watching this either live now or you're watching this during the next week, if there's some tips and tricks you've got that you always use when you're moving from show to show or venue to venue, or maybe even you've got some questions about how could I do this better, Please do post it up in the chat. I will have a look before Training Tuesday next week, and we'll do our best to cover those in this session next week. And I'll be back in Southampton in the studio, so you have a pleasure of being able to see me next week as well. So thanks for joining us for Training Tuesday today, and see you next week.